What's up, everyone? In this video, we are going to read a really funny story that might be true on Reddit. Now, if you don't really know what Reddit is, it is basically a website where people can post things like text or pictures or basically whatever. And one of the really good things about learning English on Reddit is that although it is written English, it is still really natural and it is written in like a spoken way. So sometimes if you read novels, then the English from novels is not spoken English, it's written English, right? But the English on this website often is like just the same as how someone would speak. So it's really useful for learning communication and learning common words that native speakers actually use. And the story that we're going to read today from Reddit is from the subreddit TIFU. And TIFU means today I effed up, meaning today I made a big mistake. The story is called TIFU by throwing my steak out a window, meaning today I effed up by throwing my steak out a window. Okay, so let's get started with this story. Last night, my wife's boss from her brand new job invited us over for dinner. On the drive over, my wife reiterated many times to me just how important it was to make a good impression. I scoffed and arrogantly informed my silly wife that I always make good impressions. So this sentence, when he says silly, we can tell it's a joke. Like, oh, my silly wife, don't worry about it. I always make good impressions. Oh, and scoffed means to be like, oh, like that. Oh, don't worry about it. My wife's boss is a single lady in her 50s, so it was just the three of us. We chit-chatted over drinks and salads and seemed to be really hitting it off. She laughed at my well-timed, perfectly appropriate jokes, and my wife seemed pleased. Soon, she brought out the main course, a nice, big, juicy steak for each of us. As I began to cut into my steak, I was discouraged to discover how undercooked this steak was. Now, I've had my fair share of rare steak. I prefer medium, but I can handle rare. This was several minutes on a hot grill short of rare. I probably could have resuscitated the cow had I tried. Instead, I sat there fidgeting with my knife and fork, worrying about how I was going to get away with not eating this steak. So this guy's first thought, instead of asking her to cook it more, he's just trying to be really polite and find a way out of eating this steak. Claim veganism? No. I'd already feigned great enthusiasm upon seeing the steak. Feign means to fake something. Just then, our hostess excused herself to the kitchen to take care of some dessert preparations. As I looked across the fancy dining room table at the open window of this third-story apartment, a cartoon light bulb appeared over my head. That means he has an idea. I knew I had to be decisive, realizing that she could return at any moment. I committed. I grabbed my steak with my hand, gently shook off the juice, and executed a perfect throw right through the center of the open window. Here's the big time mistake. The window wasn't open. It was the cleanest freaking window you've ever seen in your life. That is, until my mostly raw slab of steak slammed up against it and slowly slid down, leaving a trail of bloody juice in its wake. So this guy literally just picked up his steak and threw it out the window, which he thought was open, and it just smacks on the window that was perfectly clean. My wife, whose steak was a nice medium rare and was unaware of my predicament, turned, jaw dropped, and stared at me like I was an alien from another planet. This look then slowly morphed into more of a, there is no place on this planet you can ever hide from me expression of demonic anger. My wife's boss heard the thud, and a thud is like a boom, right? My wife's boss heard the thud of the steak on window impact and came quickly. She took in the scene, the steak sitting on the windowsill, the blood trail, my empty plate, and then gave me an inquisitive, puzzled look. So she's like, "What?" I just didn't know what to say. It felt like a minute of silence, but was probably 3 or 4 seconds. Finally, the best I could manage was, I'm so sorry. I'm such a klutz. I don't know. I was just cutting it and it slipped. Just ask my wife. I really am a klutz, right, honey? No help coming from that direction. I will clean this up. I can't believe this. I am so sorry, etc., etc. So he was blaming it on him just being like, whoops, being so clumsy that he somehow threw a steak at the window. I guess that was the only option. Both women continued to stare at me like I had escaped from the loony bin as I smeared the blood around the window with my cloth napkin, dusted the steak, and continued to mutter my incoherent explanation. I knew no one was buying the story. So to buy something means to believe something. So if you say they're not buying it, it means they don't believe it. For example, I made an excuse why I was late to my boss, but he wasn't buying it, meaning he wasn't believing it. I knew what I had to do. I sheepishly returned to my seat and proceeded to eat every bite of that disgusting, cold, chewy, bloody raw steak. Ugh. I remained pretty quiet the rest of the evening. My wife's only 2 words to me since the incident are, "I'm fine." Too long, didn't read. That's what TLDR means. Too long, didn't read. Tried to sneakily throw my undercooked steak through an open window, only to find out it wasn't open. Okay, so that is a pretty embarrassing story if it is true. Personally, I do believe it's true because I don't know. I feel like it is not so out of the ordinary that it could never happen. So anyway, he posts an update saying, "Just got the first post, I'm fine, communication from my wife via text, who is at work, and she said, 'Good news, boss's name and I just had a good laugh over how much of an idiot you are. I hope you know you will never live this down. Love you, moron.'" Yeah, so that is pretty funny. To me, this story seems like it definitely could be real. And quick personal story. My friend told me he was eating somewhere. I won't give too many details, but he was eating at a person's house. They invited him in to eat, and he was with his other friend. And they served him a dish, and in that dish, there was a piece of food or meat or something. He didn't know what it was, but it smelled so bad that he couldn't eat it. And then his friend also had this thing in his dish, but I guess his friend took action a little bit faster, and his friend pretended to eat some of it, and then he said, "Oh, this is really, really good. You should try it." And then he picked it up and he put it in my friend's bowl. So he just took it, put it in his bowl, like, yeah, eat it, you should try it. Because he was so disgusted by it and he couldn't eat it. So then my friend was stuck with 2 of these in his bowl, and I'm not sure how he dealt with it. I don't think he ate it, but it's a pretty funny story. All right, so the first comment is one question, OP, and OP means original poster, the person who posted this story. Let's say the window was open and the steak is gone. She returns a minute later. What, you just tell her you devoured it? That's a good point, right? So even if he did throw it out, how are you going to explain how fast you ate it? You just like, it doesn't really make sense. And then this guy says, and then she finds a weird outdoor steak outside sometime. Or maybe bears. Yeah, maybe some bears came to eat it. No. The trick is to grab the steak from the yard on your way back to the car. Yeah, and then cook it at home. Yeah, find the steak outside, bring it home, and cook it. And there's no food wasted. Everybody's happy, right? As we say in English, it's a victimless crime. There's no harm done. This guy says, it's time like this when you should just fake a seizure. Oh, that reminds me of another story where a guy was in court. He was being charged with a serious crime, and he just pretended to like have a heart attack and die. And no one was believing it. They were all just like watching him as he's like in his chair with like one eye open to see if anything's happening. It didn't work, but maybe in this situation, a seizure could work. You should have grilled the steak under the pretense that you were killing off any germs it might have picked up on the floor. Oh. Yeah, so this might be an actually good solution. Pretend to drop the steak and then recook it. And then this guy says, you go full Gordon Ramsay and shout, what the is this? This steak is so raw, it's eating the salad. Wow, that is pretty funny. All right, guys, so that is the story of the guy who tried to throw his steak out the window. If this video gets a bunch of views, I'm thinking I will do these stories more often and look at Reddit posts more often because, like I said, they are a great way to learn. And anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I'll post a link to this story in the description so you can read it yourself. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.